At face value, would seem like this is negative news for the likes of LG Display and Samsung. But beyond the knee-jerk reaction in the stock market, how negative is it really?
Well, obviously, in terms of the display business itself, in terms of the profitability, it's not necessarily high. So therefore, we don't really recommend any stocks related to the display segment. Definitely, this news is negative for both Samsung Electronics as well as LG Display. But obviously, the impact is much bigger for LG Display. If you look at the sales revenue side, the Apple accounts for about 36% of the total sales. As for Samsung Electronics, it's only about 7%. So implication is not that big. And going into that, the new technology, so-called the micro LED, micro LED, obviously the percentage of the implication will be much bigger for the LG Display. Overall, the display business is still under the chicken game, where the economy of scale is much bigger for Samsung Electronics than LG Display. And therefore, we think that we could take it as a negative news for the entire sector, but much lesser for Samsung Electronics, but much more significant for LG Display.
Well, talking of the entire sector, lost in this conversation has been the fact that there's another Apple supplier out there, and that is, of course, the Chinese display maker BOE, which some tip could even overtake Samsung as the largest iPhone display supplier by 2024. What's the negative or otherwise implication for them?
Well, it could be the case, but if you look at the overall display segment, the BOE supplies about 7% of the iPhone 14. So obviously the percentage is still very low. And in this business, as I said, it's a economy of scale business where the percentage of the market share is much more significant for Samsung Electronics and continue to be able to sustain this kind of risk or the low profitability or negative earnings. Obviously, in terms of catching up business, it will be quite tough for BOE in terms of this segment. But maybe the Apple Watch side, maybe there is a possibility. So we're not too worried about the Chinese competition, but obviously it will cause much longer period of the pain in terms of the profitability for the display business as a whole, and which company can sustain with the high level of the cash flow. Obviously, Samsung is the one, so therefore we think that they are in a good position to sustain the competitions.